So hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Bite 8 of our Python crime game. Okay, so for those of you that are members, you already have the Bite on Google Drive, so go there and pick them up. For the rest of you that are seeing this now, this is what we're going to do today. We're going to do a little bit of pandas. We're going to do a little bit of matplotlib. Let me show you. So for pandas, we're going to create a new table and aggregate values. And we're also going to look up values from one table to another. And then we're going to plot all the crimes in a map using matplotlib and Basemap. So this is how it looks. Let me run it again. So do you accept the challenge? Yes. What is your name? Ruth. One table. And then do you need more help? No. And then it says, okay, before we focus on the crime that occurred in SQL City, let's take a look at all the crimes that occurred between 2017 and 2018. And then you get this beautiful map. So that's the part that we're going to create, from OK to doing the map. Let's get started. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So the first thing that we need to do is actually connect to the database. And we've already have that piece of code created. We are going to do later on a module that will allow us to, you see when you import this stuff, we're going to create our own. So we can call these instead of rewriting it. Probably we should do it sooner rather than later, but I want to do the matplotlib stuff first and then we will get back to this. So we're going to run this. We're now working locally. Okay, we left Google Colab, but you can still do these things in Google Colab. So this piece of code connects to the database and then returns the tables. And then the next thing that is, we're going to first, let me do this. We're going to read first the crime scene report. If you remember from our previous bite, this is how you read a table. You do pandas read SQL and then select. Nothing weird. And then you will look at the table. So this is the way the table looks. We're going to now filter it by SQL City to look at how the data is structured. This is quite important. This is one of the things where I think Power BI and Power Query in this case has an advantage over pandas, and is that you have this Excel way of exploring the data, which is quite wonderful. Here you have to do more work to actually see the tables, at least for what I've seen so far. But to look at just this data set, but just for SQL City, you need to filter it, obviously. So you call the table, the data frame C is the name that we're going to give to the data frame. Data frame in pandas is like a table. So this is our table name. And then you repeat the table name, and then you call the column that you want to filter on, and then you do the comparison equal, and then there you write SQL City. Case sensitive, so be careful, right? And then you print again, so Shift Enter. And then we can see all the crimes that are stored in the database for SQL City. And as you can see here, for 2018, February 15th, there are 2 murders. I don't know if these are 2 murders or is 1 murder. It says redacted, so don't know. We are going to assume that because this is a crime scene report, there's 1 crime scene report per crime. Don't know if that is the case. So in that case, we would assume that SQL City on that particular date, we had 2 murders. And I think there is, no, it looks like it's just 2 murders, okay? So what we need to do, in order to plot the map with the number of crimes, we need to have a table that has the city and then the number of crimes for that specific city, okay? We're not going to care about the dates. We just say, okay, the city, how many crimes on the entire database. So for that, we need to aggregate these, because if we're going to do it for the entire database, I'm going to comment out the filter on SQL City so we get all the values again, okay? Now, to I have it here somewhere, group by, otherwise we can search for it. So what we're going to do now is we need to group this table by city and count the number of times city occurs. So just to make sure we can then look at this, well, we can do it now. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9, okay? So 9 cities for a school city. That's the number what we should get. Okay, so how do we group? So pandas, group by pandas. Pandas has a group by function. Go figure. So what you do is you group by a column or none, but by everything, I guess. And then you axis, you say if you want to group on the rows or on a specific column. And then you have all sorts of things that you can do. But then while you are grouping, you can actually aggregate. So you can have, for example, the mean, or you can have the sum, or you can have the count, or you can have all sorts of operations. So what we're going to do is we're going to do DFC. This is our table, the table that we created. So it's data frame crimes, basically. So data frame crimes group by, and then we want to group by a specific column, which is city. And we want to count the number of times city occur, and you can do that with size. I Google it. It wasn't on the documentation, as you could see, so I Googled it. And then we're going to see the results, to write it again, and then shift enter. I wrote capital, and then I misspell. So now, as you can see, or maybe you don't see it yet, but I can now see it by the shape of it. So this returns a series, and we want to get a data frame back. So to get a data frame back, you use the reset index. And this is going to probably, no, they didn't fail, cool. So now you can see that we have all the cities, but we have only one. Why do we have only one? And it's because it did this operation on the series, not on this table up here. So we need to restart these and then rerun these, and that's when we get the numbers. So be careful. Remember, every time you press shift enter, it stores the table in memory, and it will perform the operations on the memory table, not on the one here. So that threw me off for the longest time. So yeah, so we cannot see SQL CD, but it is 9. Just believe me. One thing is that you see that the column name is 0 is because we didn't specify anything. I do want to have a name though. Now I'm going to call these crimes. You can pick any other name. And then again, because it's doing it on that table that you saw here, and that exists, the city exists only one, it gives us 1. But if we go up here and run it again, we get it again. You could actually sort these to see, because I think SQL crimes is one of the biggest crimes, the biggest cities with crime, but that's fine. You should check though. The next thing that we're going to do, so now we have city and crimes, and we want to plot cities and number of crimes, but we cannot plot in here because we don't have the latitude and longitude. We do have though, if you remember, we created on byte 7 a table with the crimes, which was called, is this table here, the crimes geo. So if you haven't seen that, just go back to byte 7 and create that table. So we're going to take a look at it. This is the one, right? So you have the city and the latitude and longitude. So we have 2 choices now. We can either put the crimes in here, or we can put the latitude and longitude in there. So I chose to do a lookup of the crimes and put it in this table. We are going to do that with an operation called merge pandas. So pandas has the same operations that, or you can do the same operations that you can do with SQL or Power Query, which is the inner join, outer join, cross, right? So it is df merge, and then you specify the table to the right, and then how you want to join. This is the options that you have, and then they are explaining here. And then you can say if they have the same key, the key columns are the same, you just write on, but if they are not, you can do for the left table, this is the key, for the right table, that's the key, okay? So this is the one that we're going to use. And this is how our statement is going to look. So I'm going to call this df data frame, and we're going to do data frame merge. So this is going to create a new data frame. You can actually put it, no, I'm lying to you. The df is the crimes geo. So I'm going to add the crimes column here. So yeah, so merge, and then we're going to do, we want to get from dfc, that's C, 2 columns. We want to have the crimes column, and we need to bring in, I tried to not bring it in, but you need to bring it in, which is the city one, right? And then we're going to say on, so what is the key? Well, the key here is city for the crimes geo, and it is city for the virtual table that we created. So we can just say on city, otherwise you will have to specify both. And then we're going to close this, I'm going to close that one, and then I want to see the results, so I'm going to pull in. And this one I don't need. And here we have our crimes. And look, SQL City, here we have our 9. Beautiful. So now we have a table that we can use to plot. Okay. How are we going to plot? So we're going to plot using matplotlib, and there are a ton of libraries for plotting stuff in Python. So I'm going to use matplotlib because we're going to use matplotlib all the time. I want you to learn it. And within matplotlib, there are a ton of libraries that you can pick. And I have picked one that is called Basemap because I think it generates beautiful maps. I tried another which is Curbal, but I did not like the rendering. I didn't think it was as beautiful as Basemap. And even though in the documentation it says Basemap has been deprecated, it's not true. There's a team that is updating it. And the last update was, I think, in October. So it is very much alive. And they are going to update the documentation very, very soon. So, yeah. So there's one thing that you need to do, well, more than one thing. If we go up here, you need to have these libraries installed. So you need to have matplotlib pyplot as built yet. Make sure you install it in your Anaconda environment if you don't have it. You don't need, and you need to, this one we already have, and you need to import toolkits basemap, this one. Okay, so there is, I should probably execute this because I made a change. There is here how to install it if you are using Anaconda. Okay, so now that we have installed all the stuff, let's start with matplotlib. Matplotlib is absolutely fantastic. So one thing that confused me at first, it was that there's a lot of, obviously, anytime that you're learning something new, there's a lot of terminology that you have no idea what it does. So the first thing that you need to know about matplotlib is that you define a figure. So I'm defining here a figure. PLT is the matplotlib. You see the PLT? For pandas, you do PD. From NumPy, you do NP. For matplotlib, you do PLT. That's the way it goes. So you do PLT figure, and then you define the size of the figure. The size of the figure is the size of the graph. How big do you want it? And then this is the background color. If you don't specify anything, it will be white. But because I'm putting this on trinket, here, I want it to be the same color, otherwise it's going to look super weird. So I have used the background of Trinket as the background of our chart. You can do something else if you like. So let me show you what these prints. So as you can see, it doesn't print anything, it's empty. But I want you to understand the difference because it is an important thing to learn. It's like knowing data frame is table and series is a column, right? For pandas, you need to know these things. So a matplotlib plot consists of a figure. So a figure is like the place where you put your chart. There's no chart yet. So when you print it, there's nothing, right? Then each figure have one axis with E or many. And an axis contains the X and Y and I think the title of the plot, nothing more. And then each axis contains an axis with I. And the axis is where you have, the ticks, the grids, the lines, so depending on what you're trying to do, you will access these objects within matplotlib. That's how they call it, I think. Right? So a figure is the container, the axis is the X and Y, and then the axes are all the elements that you're going to want to, tinker with to be able to make your chart pretty. Okay, cool. I have used this anatomy of a figure a million times because I never remember what things are called. And you can imagine that from program to program, things are called different, unfortunately. So let's go back to our base map. So we have a figure, and now we're going to put inside the figure a map. And let me show you for Basemap, I don't have it. So Basemap matplotlib. This is the documentation. Again, this is not true anymore. They are going to change it. So this is documentation for the Basemap. You have setting up the map. So these are the type of maps that you can do with with Basemap. And there are different projections. I mean, the world of geographical plotting is huge. So I take it always with a lot of respect because it's not as easy as it looks. So you need to choose which projection you want to have, and then you can start doing things. We are going to use the LCC, which is the Lambert conformal projection, because I thought it looked quite pretty. And as you can see, it doesn't have, like the flat latitude and longitude. It has like a kind of polar coordinate thing. So we need to transform our latitude and longitude to these coordinates in order to be able to plot our map in here. Cool. Don't worry, Basemap does that. So when you say that you want to do a Lambert conformal projection, they will help you convert latitude and longitude, so you're you're good. So this is the things that they say you need. You need to have a Basemap installed and then NumPy and matplotlib. And then you start with these. So this is, have I specified? I've already have it for, I'm going to show you. So I've already have the basements for our map. This is how it looks for me. So as you see, it's not plotting anything yet. And the reason is because this part of the code is just telling where this should focus on the map, but it's not plotting anything at all, right? So if we need to plot something, so you start seeing a map. So for example, if you want to plot the coastline of this part of the map that you specified, you do M, draw coastlines, and then the color for the line. And now we're going to see something. Now we see a map, okay? Because we said, okay, draw the coastline of this part of the map. So where to focus the map on, it is done here. This is the projection. This is the Lambert conformal projection. This is the LCC. And these are the latitude and longitude. And it took a while for me to understand it. And you need to see it. So I'm going to paste here some code that will turn on the grid lines for the map so you can see. So I'm going to uncomment these, uncomment these, uncomment these, and uncomment these. And this is going to plot the latitude and longitude for this map. And then you can see here, maybe I should do a little bit smaller so we can see both. You can see here that it says lower longitude. So longitudes are the ones that go up, down, right? So in this case are these ones. Okay, so now that we have the coordinates on the map on, we're going to turn them off later, but just so you can see. So it says the lower longitude minus 119. Easiest way for me was to change it to something bigger to see what it did. And then if I change that, you can see that the map gets longer here. So it goes from 159 instead of what it was. So it's making it drawing this way. So if I go back to Control Zeta, what it was, it just makes it. And then for the longitude upper, it says minus 64. Let's say, I don't know, 100 or 200. You have to do it within. And then it's cutting here, you see? So this is these parts. So how much of these and how much of these? So if I do Control Zeta to undo my changes because I don't remember what I wrote in the beginning there. And then you have the latitudes are the ones that go in parallel, and then you will say how much of these you want to see of the map. So you have to play with these until you have focused the map exactly where you want it. How wonderful is that? I mean, you might say, oh, it's a pain to have to specify it this way, but on the other hand, it just allows you to be so specific. It's fantastic. Okay, so now that you know how those coordinates work, I'm going to comment them out. Remember that you can copy code with programs online, so you can just copy on the screens in case you need it. So we're going to draw coastlines, and then now you need to go to the documentation of here to know exactly what you can plot on each on a base map. They do have examples. So here you see, for example, parallels, coastlines, fill continents. So these are the settings that I have for our map. So I drew the coastlines, and then I drew the countries. You can actually execute one by one so you can see. I drew the difference in the country lines. And then I drew the fill color for everything. And then I have the continent color, right? And then I just have the states, because I thought that it would be easier to see which city is at. Okay, so now that we have our map. So far so good. We need to plot the dots on our map. Okay, so to plot the dots on the map, you can either do a scatter plot or you can do a plot with a marker. And let me show you. So you can do plt.plot, and then you pass the x, y, and coordinates. Let's pass them first. I'm going to put just SQL city. There. And then we're going to say that the marker we want to have is a circle, and then print, Shift Enter. Oh, it won't work. That threw me off. The thing is that when you're plotting latitude and longitude in a map that has like not polar, they're not polar, they are like numbered conformal projection. So you need to convert latitude and longitude to that projection, and you do it actually quite easily with Basemap. You do M. So M function encodes latitude and longitude into the projection that you've chosen. And then once you do that, you put here x1 and then y1, comma. And that should plot our SQL city. Voila. So there we have, wasn't it amazing that Google Maps found the SQL city? Probably it's a company. I don't believe there is an SQL city, but yeah, it was cool. Okay, so we need to have the size of the dot, right? We don't want it to be, in this case, we know that SQL city has 9, so you could do marker size equal 9, right? But you don't want to do it like this because the database, if this was for real, probably, unfortunately, more crimes will happen in SQL city. So we would have to change it manually, and we don't want that. So we want to grab the value for SQL city here. So what is the crime value? If you remember from byte 7, I think, you can do df, and then you're going to filter the data frame. I'm sure there are a million different ways to do it. This is one. So you do df.city, and then the city you filter it by, you know now how to do this SQL city. And then you close that, and then you do crimes. That means you want from the row SQL city, you want the crime column, you want the item from there. And that is going to give us, we should call this not df, we should call this the SQL city crimes. Otherwise, we're going to be in big trouble. And now we store in memory a new df, which is also problematic. So let's rerun it. Go there. And then we get 9, okay? So now that we have these, I'm going to specify it within here because I know that this is just for the map. And then I can do that the marker size is going to be SQL crimes, which is 9. And then it gets bigger. Cool. And then you can do all types of stuff. You can do the marker, age, you can do, but we're going to just leave it below. Another thing that we want to do is we want to have text with the name. So we're going to do plt.text. And then we're going to do x1. So where do you want to put the text? In the coordinates of latitude and longitude, right? And then what is the text going to be? The text is going to be SQL city. And then the font size. Font size, I think I picked 12. And that is going to put text, SQL city, close to the blue dot. Beautiful. So now we have located SQL city. We do want to highlight it for a viewer to see, but how do we plot everything else? And it's actually quite simple. This is going to be done the exact same way, but instead of hard coding like we did here at SQL city, we're actually going to read from the data. So I'm going to paste the code. So I'm going to take the column longitude and the column latitude and convert it to map projection coordinates the same way we did here with the M. And then you do the scatter plot, which is X and Y. This is the column crimes, red for the color of the dots, and then alpha is the transparency. So if you run this, you see that it gets all the plots. It's very, very small. So I actually multiply by a factor of, you can choose what you like, which is not very, but it's a game. So I really want the dots to show. So now we can see all the maps in all the crimes in the US stored in our data set. So if you're wondering, how do I know this alpha edge colors, you just go to scatter, search scatter matplotlib, and it will take you to the scatter function. And here you can see C stands for color, the type of colors that you can use, the marker style. You can click on it, and it will tell you to take you here. You can see what mark styles you can use. And yeah, you have everything, the alpha, the edge colors. So just look at the documentation if you want to customize it further. Okay, so your assignment is, if you remember, to go back here, and then you need to do these parts. So, okay, before we focus on the crime, blah, 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 and then plot. Okay, so on the next byte, we're going to continue providing some statistics on the database. So maybe a line chart, maybe a bar chart. So you start learning Matplotlib a little bit, and we will do a fair deal of pandas too. And then maybe I was thinking that we could create a report that they could download. So it's I'm not sure if it's possible with Trinket, or well, we will see, but it would be cool that you could generate a PDF report that then could be sent or something. We'll see. Tons of ideas. So I hope you're enjoying this. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.